What happens when a love that was thought to be lost suddenly finds its way back? A second chance, a long-lost connection, and a choice between the past and the future. Will she let go of everything she's built for a love that never truly died? In this emotional journey of love, heartbreak, and redemption, you won't believe what happens next. This story will have you on the edge of your seat, with twists you never saw coming. And just when you think it's all over, the real question is asked: is love enough to conquer time, distance, and the scars of the past? Stay till the end, and trust me, you won't want to miss the shocking conclusion. Red Heart. If this story moved you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Join us, and never miss a moment of heart-touching, dramatic storytelling. Subscribe now, and be part of the journey. The sun hung low, casting a golden glow over the lake, its surface like a mirror, reflecting the pastel sky above. Allie stood by the water's edge, the soft breeze tangling her hair as she watched Noah approach. Her heart raced. He was here, but the tension in the air felt different. A weight pressed on her chest, and it had nothing to do with the gentle breeze. Noah's eyes met hers, a flicker of something old and familiar in them, but there was an edge now. Something had shifted. She took a step forward, her bare feet sinking into the cool, damp grass. Her breath hitched. The world around her grew eerily silent. No chirping birds. No rustling leaves. Just the soft rush of her own heartbeat. She could feel the distance between them, as if time itself was pulling them apart. Noah opened his mouth to speak, but the words seemed caught in his throat. He took a hesitant step toward her, his eyes never leaving hers. Suddenly, the air seemed to thicken, as if every moment that passed was laced with an unspoken truth. "Allie, we need to talk," he said, his voice low and strained. Her stomach twisted. She could see it now, something in his eyes. A sadness. A loss. Her hand trembled at her side. The same hand that had once held his with such certainty. "What is it, Noah?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, her chest tightening with anticipation. He hesitated, running a hand through his hair, a familiar nervous gesture that made her heart ache. "The letters? Allie, the letters we wrote. I found them," he said, the words slicing through the air like a cold knife. Her breath caught. The letters. The ones from years ago. The ones she thought were lost forever. The ones that held their memories, their love, their promises. Her mind raced. How could he have found them? "I thought they were gone," she said, her voice shaking, as if the ground beneath her feet was crumbling. Noah's face was pale now, his lips pressed into a thin line. "They weren't gone, Allie. They were always here. Hidden, but never forgotten." Her eyes widened, her throat tightening. He stepped closer, the distance closing between them like the tightening grip of the past. She could feel it, the moment when everything would change again. Noah reached into his pocket and pulled out a bundle of yellowed letters, their edges curled and worn with time. The sight of them made her stomach drop. These were the letters they had written to each other when they were young, when everything had seemed possible, when they had believed in forever. But now, they were just a reminder of a past that could never be relived. He handed her the bundle, his hand brushing hers for the briefest moment. The shock of it made her shiver. Her fingers trembled as she took the letters from him, her mind racing to understand what this all meant. "Noah, what are you saying?" she asked, her voice barely audible. His eyes were filled with something she couldn't quite place. "That love," he said slowly, his gaze intense. "That love, Allie, never really went away." A gust of wind blew past them, sending the letters fluttering to the ground. Allie reached down, her heart pounding as she picked them up, her fingers brushing the paper, feeling the weight of every word written so long ago. And then it hit her. The truth. The cold, biting truth. These letters were not just a memory. They were a plea. A plea to remember. To remember the love that had once been so bright. The love that time had tried to bury. But as she looked up at Noah, her heart wrenched. It was not the same. Nothing was the same anymore. The love they shared had been interrupted by time, by the world, by the choices they made. And now, standing there, amidst the echoes of their past, Allie realized that sometimes, even the most powerful love can fade with time. But in this moment, there was only one thing left to do. Let go. And face the future. Together. She held the letters tightly in her hands, their weight pressing against her heart. The world around her seemed to fade, the sound of the wind, the rustling trees, all becoming distant, irrelevant. It was just her and Noah now, standing there in the shadow of what they had once been. Noah's eyes searched hers, his expression full of hope, but also something darker. A fear that had never been there before. It was as though he could see the war raging inside her. The conflict between the love that still lingered in the deepest parts of her soul and the reality that time had shaped them into different people. The silence stretched between them, thick and heavy, as if the very air around them was holding its breath. Finally, Noah spoke again, his voice trembling slightly. "I never stopped loving you, Allie. Even when we were apart, I never let go." Her breath caught in her throat. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to feel that warmth that had once filled her heart every time they were near. But there was something else now. A distance she couldn't ignore. A gap between them that no amount of love could bridge. She opened her mouth to speak, but the words caught in her throat. She wasn't sure what she was supposed to say. How could she explain that the love they shared had shaped her, but also shattered her? That she had loved him so deeply, and yet, life had pulled them in different directions. "Do you remember that summer?" Noah asked softly, his voice taking on a quiet, almost pleading tone. "The summer we spent together? The way we felt, the way it was? We promised each other forever, Allie. I meant it." Allie felt a sharp pain in her chest, as if someone had driven a dagger into the very heart of her. The memories flooded back in waves, so vivid that it was almost like she could smell the summer air, hear the laughter, feel the heat of the sun on her skin. She closed her eyes, lost in the memories. The sweet days by the lake. The quiet moments when they would sit and talk about their dreams. The long walks under the stars. And the way Noah had kissed her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. It had all been so perfect then. So effortless. But the years had passed. Time had worn them down. Changed them. She could feel the weight of it now, the distance that had grown between them like a chasm, impossible to cross. "I remember," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I remember everything. But Noah, we were different people then. And now it's not the same." His eyes hardened, and for the briefest moment, she saw the flicker of pain there. But it quickly passed, replaced by determination. "No," he said firmly, stepping closer. "We are not different people. We've just been apart for too long. The love we had, it doesn't disappear. It's still here, Allie. It's still here between us, if you'll just see it." Her heart raced, pounding against her chest like a drum. His words felt like a lifeline, but also a threat, pulling her back into a world she thought she had left behind. "Noah, I can't," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can't go back. I can't keep holding on to something that doesn't exist anymore." The silence that followed her words was deafening. For a long moment, neither of them moved, as if they were both waiting for the other to break the tension. But neither did. Then, without warning, Noah reached for her hand, his fingers brushing hers gently, almost reverently. "Allie, please," he said, his voice low and raw. "You don't have to let go. Not completely. We can make this work. We can find our way back to each other. If you just give us a chance." Tears welled up in Allie's eyes as she looked at him. She had never seen him like this, so vulnerable, so raw. It was as if all the walls he had built around himself had come crashing down in that one moment. She wanted to believe him. God, how she wanted to. She wanted to feel that fire that had once burned so brightly between them. She wanted to return to the days when everything was simple, when love was enough to conquer all. But the reality was different now. The world had changed. She had changed. "Don't you see?" she whispered, her voice trembling. We've both lived lives without each other. We've moved on. We've grown. We've built futures apart. She could see the hurt flash in his eyes, but it was quickly masked by a fierce resolve. No, Allie, he said, his grip tightening on her hand. We haven't moved on. Not really. We've only been waiting for the moment when we would find each other again. And now, here we are. Don't you feel it? Don't you feel the pull? The way we are still bound together by everything we've shared. Allie's heart ached. She didn't want to admit it, but deep down, she felt it too. The pull, the connection, the love that refused to die, no matter how much time had passed. She closed her eyes, overwhelmed by the emotions crashing over her. Noah had always been her everything. The one person who had truly understood her. The one who had loved her without reservation. And in that moment, she realized that maybe, just maybe, the love they shared could still survive. But was she willing to fight for it? Was she willing to face the pain, the uncertainty, and the fear of losing herself in the process? She didn't know. The world seemed to stand still as she stood there, torn between the past and the present, between the love she had never stopped feeling and the life she had built without him. Noah seemed to sense her inner struggle. He stepped closer, his breath warm against her cheek. I know it's hard, Allie, he whispered, his voice a soothing balm. But we can make it work. We can create a future together. All it takes is for you to believe. Believe in us. Believe in our love. Her chest tightened as the weight of his words pressed down on her. Could she do it? Could she believe in them again, in a love that had been lost to time? She didn't know. But in that moment, as she looked into Noah's eyes, those eyes that had once been her home, she realized that perhaps the greatest journey of all was not about finding love. It was about rediscovering it. And maybe, just maybe, that was worth everything. Allie stood frozen, her heart in turmoil, every part of her yearning to say yes, to let the love she had once known envelop her once more. But the weight of the years, the scars of time, the unspoken words between them, it all threatened to crush her spirit. Noah, sensing her hesitation, didn't pull away. He didn't rush her. He simply stood there, holding her gaze, his face a mixture of hope and quiet desperation. He had always been her rock, the person who understood her in ways no one else could. And here he was, asking for a chance to rewrite their story. But could they? Was it even possible? The sound of the lake's water lapping gently against the shore brought her back to the present. The world was still moving around them, oblivious to the storm raging in her chest. The sun, now dipping lower into the horizon, cast long shadows across the landscape, as if time itself was reminding her of the fleeting nature of life. Her life. Their lives. A cold shiver ran down her spine. She had spent so many years trying to forget the pain, trying to bury the ache of losing him. She had learned to move on, to carve out a life without him. But the truth was, she had never fully moved on. Not really. No one had ever taken his place. Not the way he had been. Noah, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, as she finally pulled her hand from his, taking a step back. The space between them felt like an ocean. I can't just turn back time. I've changed. We've changed. He shook his head, his eyes pleading, desperate. But Allie, love doesn't change. Not the way we feel about each other. You know it's still there. I feel it every time I look at you. Don't you? She wanted to believe him. She wanted to feel that rush of certainty, that warmth that had once been their love. But all she felt now was fear. Fear of getting lost in something that might break her again. Fear of losing herself in the whirlpool of emotions that Noah stirred up in her with every word he spoke. Her breath came faster, the panic rising within her like a tide. Don't you see? Allie continued, her voice quivering with the weight of her words. I've built a life, Noah. I've made a life for myself, without you. And now you're asking me to throw all that away? To dive back into something that was so beautiful but also so painful? I can't. No, Noah interrupted, his voice cutting through her words. You're not throwing anything away. You're not losing yourself. You're finding yourself again. You're finding the love that was always meant to be. Her chest tightened, the ache in her heart deepening with every word. How could he expect her to believe that? How could he expect her to simply step back into the past as if the last decade had never happened? "Look at me, Noah," she said, her voice breaking as she finally met his gaze. "You're asking me to give up everything I've fought for, everything I've worked so hard to build.
How can I do that?
How can I go back to being the girl I was when I'm no longer her?" Noah's face fell, and for a brief moment, she saw the walls he had so carefully built around himself crack. She saw the vulnerability in his eyes, the same vulnerability he had shown her years ago when they had shared their dreams and hopes, when they had been inseparable. He stepped forward again, his voice barely above a whisper. "Allie, it's not about going back. It's about moving forward. Together. I'm not asking you to erase the past. I'm asking you to let us create a future." The tears she had been holding back finally broke free, spilling down her cheeks as she looked at him. "I don't know how, Noah. I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can be the person you want me to be." He reached out, gently cupping her face in his hands, his thumb brushing away the tears. His touch was soft, tender, and for a moment, Allie closed her eyes, letting herself feel the comfort of his presence, the warmth of the man she had once loved so completely. "You don't have to be anyone but yourself," Noah whispered. "You just have to be with me. That's all I've ever wanted." Her breath caught in her throat. She could feel her resolve beginning to crack, the walls she had built around her heart starting to crumble. But the fear was still there, so strong, so overwhelming. She couldn't simply forget the years without him. She couldn't ignore the life she had created without him. And yet, in this moment, she felt a pull, a magnetic force, drawing her toward him, a connection she couldn't deny. Noah was right. The love hadn't died. It had merely been buried beneath the weight of time. And in that realization, Allie found herself at a crossroads, torn between the woman she had become and the girl she had once been. Torn between the life she had fought for and the love that had never truly faded. The air around them grew heavier, thick with anticipation, as if the world itself was waiting for her decision. Noah's eyes searched hers, his hand still gently holding her face. "Please, Allie, if you still feel even a fraction of what we once had, let me in. Let us find our way back to each other. You don't have to be afraid." Her heart thundered in her chest as she stood there, frozen, trying to make sense of the whirlwind inside her. And then, in the silence, she felt it. The warmth of Noah's hands, the steady beat of his heart, the echo of the love they had shared, still alive within them. Could she really walk away from that? Could she really let go of the one person who had truly understood her? Who had shared her dreams and her fears? Her mind was a storm of conflicting emotions, but her heart knew only one thing. It had never stopped loving him. With a shaky breath, Allie reached out, her hands trembling as they found Noah's. She let the fear wash over her, but she didn't let it control her. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe in the possibility of their love, in the chance for a second chance. "Noah," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know what the future holds, but I know this. I can't imagine a future without you." Noah's face lit up, a mixture of relief and joy flooding his features as he pulled her close. Allie let herself melt into his embrace, the warmth of his body enveloping her, the familiar scent of him grounding her. In that moment, the past and present collided, and she realized that no matter how much time had passed, no matter how many years had separated them, love was timeless. It could survive anything: distance, pain, fear. And in the end, love would always find its way back home. Noah held her tightly, as if afraid that if he let go, she might slip away once more. Allie could feel his heart racing against her chest, his breath warm on her hair. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to feel his presence fully, to let the walls she had built around herself begin to crumble, piece by piece. But even as she allowed herself to believe again, the fear was still there, lurking in the background, gnawing at her. Could they really make it work? She had been hurt before, and the scars of the past were not easily erased. The life she had made, the choices she had made, it all seemed to stand in opposition to the love she had once shared with Noah. Still in his arms, there was a warmth she couldn't ignore. A part of her, the part that had loved him without hesitation, still burned bright. She closed her eyes, breathing in the familiar scent of him, wood and the faint hint of the lake where they had spent so many days. But it wasn't enough to drown out the whispers of doubt in her mind. Allie pulled away slightly, her hands still resting on his chest, but her eyes searching his face with a mixture of longing and caution. Noah, I want to believe this. I want to believe in us again, but how do we do this? How do we build something new from what's left of the past? He looked at her, his eyes filled with that familiar intensity, the one that had always made her feel like she was the only person in the world that mattered. We take it one day at a time, Allie. We don't have to fix everything at once. We just have to believe that we're worth it, that what we had was worth holding on to. His words were like a balm to her wounded heart. Yet, even as his voice soothed her, the doubts grew louder, louder than the thunderstorm of memories crashing through her mind. She had spent years building a life for herself, finding a version of happiness without him. Would she be able to tear down everything she had worked so hard for? And yet, there was something about Noah's presence, about the way he was looking at her now, that made her feel like she was standing at the edge of a precipice. She was on the verge of something huge, something terrifying, but perhaps something beautiful as well. She took a deep breath, her eyes never leaving his. But what about all the time that passed, Noah? What about the choices we made? I'm not the same person I was when we were together. I've changed. I've learned things, and so have you. His jaw tightened for a moment, but his gaze never faltered. I know we've both changed, but I don't believe that means we can't still have something. The past doesn't define us, Allie. What defines us now is what we choose to do with what we have left. Her heart thundered in her chest. She could see the sincerity in his eyes, the raw vulnerability. He's right, she thought. The past is the past, but we still have now. The wind began to pick up, a gust of cool air sweeping across the lake, ruffling their hair and adding an almost eerie quality to the quiet that had settled between them. The world seemed to be holding its breath, waiting for her to make a decision. Allie took a small step back, her fingers brushing her cheek, as if to wipe away the tears that threatened to fall. She glanced at the lake again, the same water that had once been their sanctuary, their escape from everything else. It was still the same lake, but so much had changed. So much had shifted. She looked back at Noah, the weight of everything they had shared, everything they had lost, pressing down on her. And then it hit her. What they had wasn't just a fleeting love. It had been a love that had withstood the test of time, the kind of love that lingers, that doesn't fade, no matter how far apart you grow. It had never truly left them, not completely. Do you remember what you told me all those years ago? She whispered. That we could never be just a memory? That no matter how much time passed, no matter how much life changed, we would always have each other? Noah's eyes softened, and he nodded slowly. I remember. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the soft rustling of the trees, the wind carrying their words away before they could be fully formed. And then, with a suddenness that took her by surprise, Allie made up her mind. She took a step closer to Noah, her heart racing with the enormity of what she was about to do. She placed her hand over his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath her palm. Okay, she whispered, her voice barely audible over the wind. I'm willing to try. I'm willing to believe in us again. Noah's eyes widened in disbelief, and for a moment, she thought he might not believe her. But then, as if to reassure himself, he gently cupped her face in his hands, his thumb brushing over the tear tracks on her cheeks. You don't know how much this means to me, Allie, he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. You don't know how much I've waited for this moment. Her heart fluttered in her chest, the uncertainty that had plagued her beginning to fade, replaced by something warmer, something more familiar. But just as she was about to speak, to tell him that she was ready to face whatever came next, a voice broke through the quiet, sharp and cutting. "Are you sure about this, Allie?" Both of them froze. Allie's heart skipped a beat. The voice was unmistakable. "Lon," she breathed, turning quickly to find him standing at the edge of the clearing, his expression unreadable. Lon. The man she had promised herself to, her fiancé, the life she had made since Noah's departure, stood there, his presence like an anchor in the storm that was rising in her heart. He took a step forward, his gaze flicking from Allie to Noah, his jaw clenched in frustration. "Are you really sure about going back to this? After everything? After all this time? What about me? What about the future we've built together?" Allie's mind went blank. Her heart hammered in her chest. For a moment, the world seemed to tilt, and she felt like she was drowning in choices, in expectations, in everything that had been, and everything that could be. Noah stood still beside her, his jaw tight, but his eyes never leaving hers. It was clear that he wasn't going to back down. This moment, this decision was everything. And in that split second, Allie knew that she was standing at a crossroads. She could feel the weight of it in her chest, the pressure of the future, of what she was about to lose or gain. But there was something else there too, something she hadn't realized until now. The truth. The truth that no matter what path she chose, there would always be a piece of her that loved Noah. A piece of her that would never forget the bond they shared. As she looked between the two men, the two loves of her life, Allie realized that she could no longer live in the shadows of her past. She had to choose. But would her heart betray her? Would she have the courage to choose love over everything else? To risk it all for a chance at happiness? Or would the fear of losing everything hold her back, leaving her stuck in a life that was safe, but not truly hers? The storm in her heart raged on, and she knew, whatever decision she made, it would change everything. Allie stood there, frozen, her mind a whirlwind of emotions, each one pulling her in a different direction. The presence of Lon, the man she had been with for so long, was like a force of nature, and it shook her to her very core. He was everything she had built a future with, everything she had thought she wanted, and yet here was Noah, the man who had once been her everything, standing beside her, offering her a chance to go back, to rewrite their story. Her heart pounded in her chest, the sound deafening in her ears. For a moment, she felt as though the entire world had gone silent, the only noise being the furious beating of her heart, the rushing of blood in her veins, and the uncertainty that threatened to swallow her whole. Lon's gaze was sharp, his eyes filled with something between disbelief and anger, and Allie could see the pain in them. He loved her, had always loved her, in a steady, dependable way. They had built a life together, a life that was stable, that was safe. But Noah had been the wild, passionate love. The one that had swept her off her feet, made her feel alive in ways she had never imagined. "Allie," Lon said again, his voice low, tight. "I thought you'd chosen me. I thought we were building a future. I thought we were happy." The word happy echoed in Allie's mind, and she realized just how many times she had said it over the years, convincing herself that she was happy, that she had made the right choice. But now, standing here between these two men, she wondered if that happiness had been enough. Noah's voice broke through her thoughts, his words carrying a quiet strength. "You have to listen to your heart, Allie. Not to the past or the future, but to now. What do you truly want?" Allie turned her head slowly to face him, her eyes searching his. She could see it in his eyes, the depth of his love, the raw vulnerability he was exposing. Noah was asking her to trust him, to trust the love they once shared. He was asking her to take a leap of faith, to step into the unknown with him. But could she? Lon stepped forward, his jaw clenched, and for a moment, Allie could see the man he had become, the man who had fought for her, who had loved her despite all her flaws. "You can't seriously be thinking about going back to him, Allie. After everything? After all these years?" His voice cracked slightly, betraying the hurt beneath. "I gave you everything I had. I was there for you when you needed me. You can't just toss all of that aside for him." The words cut through her, each one like a dagger to her heart. She could feel the guilt, the weight of the years they had spent together, crashing down on her. But deep inside, another voice was calling out to her. It was quieter, but no less powerful. It was the voice of her heart, and it whispered that love, true love, could never be tossed aside. Love, when it was real, always came back. Her heart raced. She glanced at Noah again, and this time, she saw something in him, something deeper than the man she had once known. She saw the man who had waited, the man who had never stopped loving her, who had always believed in their love, even when she hadn't. He wasn't asking her to forget everything she had built. He was asking her to take a chance on them, on the love they had once shared, the love that had never truly died. "I don't know what to do, Noah," Allie whispered, her voice shaking. "I don't know how to choose. I feel like I'm drowning in this decision, like I'm losing myself." Noah reached out to her, his hand gently resting on her arm. "You're not losing yourself, Allie. You're just remembering who you are. You're remembering the love we had, the love that's still inside you. You've never forgotten me, not truly. And I've never forgotten you, not even for a moment." Tears welled up in Allie's eyes as she fought to keep them at bay. She looked at Noah, her heart tearing in two. She had loved him so fiercely, so completely once. But she had also loved the man who stood before her now, the man who had stayed by her side, the one who had never let go, even when it seemed like she had. Lon's voice broke the silence again, raw with emotion. "You don't owe him anything, Allie. You owe me. You owe me the future we talked about, the life we dreamed of. Don't throw that away." The words were like a punch to her gut. She loved him, she did. But the truth was, her love for him had always been steady, predictable, safe. But Noah had been the fire, the spark that had once ignited something inside her. Could she really walk away from that? Could she really give up the chance to experience that love again, the love that had once consumed her so completely? Allie's chest tightened, her breath coming in shallow gasps as the weight of the moment pressed down on her. The world seemed to close in, and she felt a dizzying rush of confusion. "I need time," she said, her voice barely a whisper, even though she knew time was a luxury she no longer had. Noah looked at her, his face softening, understanding in his eyes. "You don't need time, Allie. You just need to listen to your heart. Your heart already knows." The tension between them all grew unbearable, and Allie could feel the fear, the rawness of the moment threatening to break her. She was standing on the precipice, looking into two futures, one with Noah, filled with uncertainty, filled with the unknown, but also filled with the possibility of rediscovered love. The other with Lon, a future that was stable, safe, but perhaps lacking the passion that had once burned so brightly between her and Noah. She closed her eyes, her mind racing. She thought of the life she had built with Lon, the shared moments, the quiet love, the years spent together. She thought of the promises they had made, the dreams they had whispered to each other in the dark. But then she thought of Noah, of the way they had loved, of the intensity of their connection, the way he had made her feel alive in a way she could never explain. And she realized, with a sudden clarity, that there was no going back. She turned to Lon, her heart breaking with the words she knew she had to say. "Lon,
I'm sorry.
I do love you, but I can't keep pretending that I'm not still in love with him. I can't ignore the past anymore. I can't ignore the love that never truly went away." Lon's face contorted with pain, his eyes darkening with anger and hurt. "You can't be serious, Allie. After everything? After all we've been through?" Tears streamed down Allie's face as she stepped toward him, placing a hand on his arm. "I never meant to hurt you. You are a good man, and I will always care about you. But I have to follow my heart. And right now, my heart is telling me that I need to be with Noah." For a long moment, Lon said nothing. His face was a mask of shock and pain, and Allie could see the devastation in his eyes. Finally, he took a step back, his lips pressed into a thin line. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Allie," he said quietly, before turning and walking away. Allie stood there, her heart heavy, her body trembling. She felt like she had just torn her life in two, but at the same time, a sense of relief washed over her, mingling with the sorrow. She had made her choice. Now, all she could do was face the future, uncertain and raw, but also filled with the possibility of love. She turned to Noah, her eyes searching his. "Are you sure about this? Are you sure about me?" Noah stepped forward, his hands reaching for hers, his touch grounding her. "I've always been sure about you, Allie. Always." And in that moment she knew, no matter what the future held, they would face it together. Because love, no matter how it had been tested, was always worth fighting for. And so, with a deep breath, Allie let go of the past and stepped into the future with Noah. Allie stood there, her hand trembling in Noah's as he gently pulled her closer, his presence steady and reassuring. Her mind was still in a whirlwind, the events of the last few moments replaying in her head like a broken record. She had made a decision, yes, but it felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, her heart racing, her breath shallow, and the fear of the unknown making every step forward seem impossible. The world around her still felt frozen in time. The last words she had spoken to Lon echoed in her ears, a bitter sweetness that she couldn't shake off. "I will always care about you." The guilt was suffocating. He had given her everything. He had loved her with a steadiness she had come to rely on. But the truth was, the fire that had once burned so bright between her and Noah had never truly died. It had just been hidden beneath the weight of years, waiting for the right moment to resurface. Noah's hand tightened around hers, as though he could sense the turmoil still swirling inside her. His eyes met hers, soft and understanding, but there was something else too, something more intense, more desperate. He needed her, and she knew that in this moment, he was giving her everything. He had no more walls left, no more defenses. It was all or nothing. For a moment, neither of them spoke, the silence between them growing heavy, the tension thick as the air before a storm. Allie's heart beat in her chest like a drum, each pulse a reminder of everything she had fought for, everything she had lost, and now, everything she had chosen to risk. "I'm scared, Noah," she whispered, her voice barely audible, a soft tremor betraying the vulnerability she felt. "I'm scared of losing myself in this, of losing everything that I've built." Noah's thumb brushed gently over her knuckles, a quiet promise in that simple gesture. "You won't lose yourself, Allie. This isn't about going back. It's about moving forward. With me. Together." She looked at him then, really looked at him, as though seeing him for the first time in years. The years that had passed between them, had they truly changed him? Had they changed her? Or had the love they shared simply been buried beneath all of life's complications, waiting for the right moment to resurface? Her thoughts raced, pulling her in every direction. Was it possible to love someone the way they once had, and yet still feel the weight of the years between them? Was love really enough to bridge the gap between what was and what could be? She could feel the familiar pull between them, the unspoken connection that no time, no distance, had ever truly broken. But there was another feeling too, one that she couldn't ignore. The fear that she might be walking away from something that had been built with Lon, a love that, though different, had been real in its own way. Could she really turn her back on that? Could she betray it for something that, in the back of her mind, she still wasn't entirely sure about? The wind picked up again, a chill sweeping across the lake, rustling the trees and making her shiver. She could feel the air getting colder as the night approached. The world around her was changing, just as her life had. "You don't have to be afraid," Noah said softly, his voice low and comforting. "Whatever happens, whatever comes, I'll be here. I've never stopped being here, Allie." And for the first time in what felt like forever, Allie allowed herself to lean into the love that had once consumed her. She could feel it rising up inside her, pushing against the walls she had spent years building. It was raw. It was powerful. It was real. "Noah," she said, her voice breaking slightly as she looked into his eyes, "I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can be the person you want me to be." He shook his head, his eyes softening. You don't have to be anyone else but yourself. That's all I've ever wanted from you.
Just be with me.
Just be the woman you are, the one I've always loved. Her breath hitched in her throat. She closed her eyes for a moment, feeling a wave of emotion crash over her. He was right. He wasn't asking for anything more than her heart, her soul, everything she had to give. And in that moment, she realized that it was everything she wanted to give. She opened her eyes again, and there was something different in her gaze now. The uncertainty, the fear, the guilt, they were still there, but they were no longer the loudest voices in her head. The truth had risen to the surface, and it was clear now. The love she had for Noah was still there, still alive, still capable of burning as brightly as it once had. "Allie," Noah said softly, his voice thick with emotion. "Don't look back. Don't second-guess this. We've been given a chance, and I don't want to waste it. I want to make it count. I want you, Allie. I always have." Her heart swelled in her chest. She didn't know how to answer him, how to tell him everything she was feeling. It was too much love, too much pain, too much fear. But as she looked at him, standing there in front of her, his heart laid bare, she realized that she didn't need to say anything at all. He already knew. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her words barely audible. "I'm sorry for everything. For walking away, for making you wait. I never should have let you go. But I can't go back. I can only go forward." She felt the tears prick at her eyes again, but this time, they weren't tears of guilt. They were tears of release, of finally letting go of the past, of finally allowing herself to embrace the future with the man who had always been a part of her heart. Noah's face softened, and he reached for her, pulling her into his arms, holding her tightly as though he were afraid she might disappear if he let go. She buried her face in his chest, letting the weight of everything she had carried over the years slip away, if only for a moment. "I'm with you," he whispered into her hair, his voice full of tenderness. "Always." And for the first time in so long, Allie felt the chains that had bound her heart slowly break apart. She wasn't just letting go of her past, she was stepping into the future with a man who had never truly left her side, no matter the distance, no matter the time. In his arms, she felt safe. She felt loved. She felt home. But as they stood there, wrapped in the warmth of each other's arms, Allie knew that the road ahead would not be easy. The past was never easily erased. Lon would be a part of her life forever, and the guilt of what she had left behind would always be there. Yet, in Noah's embrace, she realized that they had been given something rare, something beautiful, a second chance. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't without its challenges. But it was theirs. And that was all that mattered. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the world in a soft golden light, Allie let out a long, shaky breath. The future was uncertain. But for the first time in a long time, she was no longer afraid. Because in that moment, with Noah beside her, she knew that love had brought her back to life. And maybe, just maybe, that was all she needed to begin again. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, Allie and Noah rebuilt their lives together, piece by piece, with the love that had never truly faded between them. The road ahead wasn't easy. There were still moments of doubt, of uncertainty, and even the occasional fear that the cracks in their past would reopen. But each time they stumbled, they found strength in each other, their bond growing stronger with every challenge they faced. Noah would often take her to the lake where they had first shared their dreams, the place that had always held their love in its depths. They would sit there, watching the sun set behind the horizon, as if nature itself was blessing their second chance. The world around them may have changed, but the lake remained constant, a reminder of the love that had never truly disappeared. And as Allie sat next to Noah on the familiar old bench by the water's edge, she realized that, in so many ways, this was the life she had always dreamed of. Not the perfect, flawless one that she had once envisioned, but one filled with real moments, real love, and the kind of connection that could withstand time, distance, and the pain of the past. They would often talk late into the night, remembering the years they had spent apart, sharing their deepest fears and desires. They would laugh at how foolish they had been to let go of each other, but in that laughter, they also acknowledged how much they had both learned from their time apart. They had grown. They had become better versions of themselves, stronger and more understanding of what love truly meant. There were still moments of quiet reflection when Allie would think of Lon, of the life she had left behind. And though there was sadness in those moments, there was also peace. She had made her choice, and with that choice came a sense of closure, the understanding that sometimes love doesn't follow the path we expect. It's messy, it's imperfect, but it's real. Noah, ever patient and understanding, never rushed her through those moments. He would hold her hand, reminding her that the love they had wasn't something that could be defined by time or circumstance. It was simply them, and that was enough. One evening, as the sun dipped lower into the sky, casting a golden hue over the water, Noah turned to Allie with a soft smile. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, weathered envelope, the edges frayed with time. "Do you remember these?" he asked, his voice thick with emotion. Allie's heart skipped a beat. She recognized the familiar handwriting. It was his, the letters they had once written to each other when they were young. The letters that had somehow managed to survive the passage of time. She took the envelope from his hand, her fingers brushing against the delicate paper. It was as if, in that moment, all the years and all the heartache had come rushing back, but this time, they weren't tears of regret or sorrow. They were tears of gratitude. "Yes," she whispered. "I remember." Noah smiled, his eyes filled with that same love she had once known. "I never stopped writing to you, Allie. Every letter, every word, was a piece of me waiting for you to come back." And as she opened the envelope, reading the first letter, her heart swelled with emotion. Every word was a testament to the love they had shared, a love that had never truly died, even when they had been apart. The tears came freely now, but they were different. These were tears of joy, of peace, of knowing that they had finally found their way back to each other. That love, no matter how complicated, had a way of finding its way home. As she looked up at Noah, her heart full, she knew that no matter what life threw their way, they would face it together. They had been given a second chance, and they weren't going to waste it. The past was behind them, but the future, well, the future was theirs to write. And in that moment, as the world around them seemed to fade into the beauty of the setting sun, Allie realized that love, the real kind, was not about perfection. It was about finding someone who would stand by you no matter what. It was about two souls, imperfect yet intertwined, fighting for something worth keeping. As the final rays of sunlight kissed the water, Noah took her hand in his and whispered, "Together forever." The sound of the water's soft lapping against the shore was the only answer they needed. And in that moment, Allie understood what it truly meant to be home. If you've been moved by this story and you want more heartwarming, dramatic tales that will touch your soul, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to me, and I'll continue bringing you stories that you won't want to miss. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe.